America has just suffered a disgraceful withdrawal from Afghanistan as the world superpower runs away from responsibility and fails yet another mission. America's enemies are circling, but America's greatest enemy isn't one you might expect, like the Taliban, Iran, Russia, or China. Learn about the most terrifying empire in world history and how this empire is prophesied to punish America very soon. Next on The Key of David with Gerald Flurry.
Greetings, everyone. The Holy Roman Empire is a mystery to this world. There have been 6 heads already, though there are to be 7 heads. The 6th head was Adolf Hitler, and of course we all understand pretty well what Hitler did. That's recent history in World War II. What about the 5th head? Well, the 5th head was Napoleon, and I think many people still remember that he filled Europe with dead people because of his warring all over that area. So it was a bloody, bloody time, but every head of the Holy Roman Empire has brought in a lot of bloodshed. Rivers of blood, as a matter of fact. The 7th head is about to come on the scene again, and it could happen even as early as this year or perhaps next year. But today, many Europeans are searching for a strong man to lead Europe in the tradition of Charlemagne. That's the way they express it. Now, Charlemagne takes you back in history to 800 AD, and most people would not remember too much about his history. They certainly wouldn't say they want this empire in the tradition of Hitler or Napoleon, because people remember too much bloody warfare from those two men, and where they were taking the initiative and causing a lot of problems in Europe. But here we have this bloody past, and today they're searching frantically for someone in the tradition of Charlemagne, a strong man in Europe. So I want to talk to you today about America's greatest enemy. It's not Russia. It's not China. It's not Iran. It's the Holy Roman Empire, and you can prove it. After all, if you look at the Germans started World War I and World War II, and the power of America was the main reason that they lost both of those wars. And there are some people, quite a few of them, that remember that and want vengeance, though they wouldn't express that publicly, at least not at this time. So there is some bad news there, but the good news here, and this is something you should really understand from your Bible, that this empire and the Russians and the Chinese are going to be the empires that leads directly into Jesus Christ, and He's going to destroy them and fill the valley of Jehoshaphat with blood up to the horses' bridles for about 200 miles. That's how it's all going to end as Jesus Christ returns to this earth. Now, if you look at the calamity of Afghanistan and what has really changed the course of modern day history, now Germany and NATO and other allies of America don't believe America will protect them anymore as they have in the past. And it is causing America to have a lot of criticism of them. What is going on in Afghanistan has been called shameless and just dishonorable. And what is really happening, and what does it all mean? We have a superpower that does not stand up like we have in the past, and actually it's a superpower that sneaked out during the night, sneaked its army out anyhow during the night, and didn't even alert the Afghanistan military leader. And that's not exactly the action of a superpower. And if you know about Bible prophecy, you can see Leviticus 26 and verse 19 and Deuteronomy 28 where it talks about God Himself breaking the pride of our power. Now, you can prove that from your own Bible, but He also tells you at the end of that that you see the greatest hope this world has ever seen. So there is a ton of good news, and we need to keep our mind on that, and we need to heed God's warning so we don't go through some of the worst suffering ever on this planet. Notice what European parliamentarian Otto von Habsburg said years ago when he was a member of Parliament, though he is deceased today. But here's what he said: the European community is living largely by the heritage of the Holy Roman Empire, though the great majority of the people who live by it don't know by what heritage they live. They live by this great heritage of the Holy Roman Empire and don't even know it, most of them. Now, that's because it's been underground, as the Bible terms it. For many, many years, they'll come out and have a great war, and then they'll go underground, and then here they come again just a few years later. And see, almost nobody knows what all this means. Here we are facing the seventh head, and even most of the world don't focus on this at all, or don't know anything about the history of the Holy Roman Empire and those 7 empires. 6 of them already have appeared, and it began in 554 AD all the way down to this time, and yet people rarely talk of that history. And they have been the bloodiest institution for warfare during that period of time by far. What is it? What does it all mean? You see, God does warn us, and we have been warning about this for over 75 years, but there's something else we need to understand. Also, Mr. Habsburg had this to say, and he was a descendant of the Habsburg dynasty that had been ruling the Holy Roman Empire for 400 years. And here's another statement that he made that, of course, happened in Austria leading the way at that time. But he said, "We possess a European symbol which belongs to all nations of Europe equally. This is the crown of the Holy Roman Empire, which embodies the tradition of Charlemagne." So he's saying we want this tradition of Charlemagne. That was the First Reich, labeled the First Reich, even though it was the second head of the Holy Roman Empire, but Charlemagne was Adolf Hitler's hero. And that's why he brought Charlemagne's crown jewels, why he brought them to Germany after he conquered Austria. He came from Austria, and he had learned about those crown jewels and knew all about them. And now he thought because of those that the Jews were no longer the chosen people of God, as some people think they are, many people think they are. He said, now the Germans are the chosen people of God. And these crown jewels illustrate that to us. And he wanted those jewels in Germany and brought them there. And part of those jewels is a crown jewel or an orb, which is a type of the earth, and they have a goal to conquer the world. They've always had that goal, to conquer the world. Now, when Hitler was giving some of those frenzied, torch-lit meetings over in Nuremberg in World War II, the crown jewels were right there. And he said they were going to stay there forever. They'd never leave. So he learned all about those jewels while he grew up in Vienna, Austria. And he knew a lot about Charlemagne. And he wanted to become a strong man just like Charlemagne was. Now, the seventh head, of course, has been underground most of the time, but it's going to burst on the scene perhaps this year, perhaps next. It could, but it is already a European superstate. Yet you don't hear much about that. It really is, and it's going to be pared down to from well over 20 nations to 10. 10 kings it's talked about in Revelation 17. 10 kings that are going to cause a lot of bloodshed in this world, but it's going to lead directly into the second coming of Jesus Christ, if you can believe that. It is going to happen, and you can prove it. It's right there in your Bible, but the Bible itself is a mystery to most people. It shouldn't be, but it is. So there's no defeat like when the Holy Roman Empire fails. They just always come back. That's the way it has been throughout history, but God is about to put a stop to it forever. But the German people are a great people, but they have been very much, hurt in their character by the Holy Roman Empire. But they are a great nation in many ways and a great people. But now, you see, Hitler's vowed that at the time that he was going to keep those crown jewels there forever. So here we have Germany and its allies are really very soon are going to destroy Iran, that number one terrorist sponsoring nation in the world. That is going to happen. You can read that in our booklet on the King of the South, and that will explain that to you. But that's all going to lead into World War III if we don't heed God's warning. God mercifully tells us where these things are leading, and He always warns the nations of Israel, and that includes America and Britain. It is specifically about America and Britain in prophecy, because they are the birthright nations, and God expects a lot from them, and He hasn't received what He expected of them or wanted from them. The nations of Israel have essentially forsaken God. And what is happening in this world, and what is happening in Europe? I mean, if you look at just the squalid condition of what's happening over in Afghanistan with the raping of 15-year-old girls and murder everywhere, all over the place, and yet they have driven the great superpower out of their country. What does it all mean? It's not necessarily America's leaving the country, but how they left. At least that's what the criticism is of most of the media. They see that, and they're not happy about that. So what does it all mean as far as Bible prophecy is concerned? Germany and NATO and all of those allies of America are not going to trust America to protect them anymore. They're not going to do that because America is not trustworthy in that way. They have a broken pride in their power because of their sins. And we could change that and should change that, and you can prove everything I'm telling you here. I mean, you can prove it from your Bible. Notice what it says in Daniel 8 and verse 23. And in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up. That's going to be that strong man typed by Charlemagne. That's what Europe is talking about all the time, and he has a fierce countenance. He's going to be doing a lot of things that cause much bloodshed in Europe and the world. But it says now in verse 24, and his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. And he shall destroy mightily, it should read, and shall prosper in practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. He's going to destroy God's own people that are lukewarm and not really putting their hearts into delivering God's message to this world. That's 95% of God's own people. But this fierce king is receiving power that's not his own. Could that be of Satan the devil? Well, yes, it certainly could be and is, if we understand it and if we understand Bible prophecy. Verse 25, look at the wonderful ending, though. It leads directly into this. And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He comes to them in peace, but then he destroys them. He's a deceitful, lying leader. And he shall also stand up against the Prince of Princes, that is Jesus Christ, but he shall be broken without hand. He shall be broken without hand, without a human hand, but by the power of God himself, Jesus Christ himself. All backed by God the Father. But notice what Bernard Connolly said years ago. Bernard Connolly wrote a bombshell book in 1995 entitled The Rotten Heart of Europe. For years he served at the heart of the exchange rate mechanism for the European Union, the EU. He headed the commission unit responsible for monitoring the servicing the system. He labels the European superstate as rotten. Why not? The rotten heart of Europe. He says it's rotten. He said it is a battle for control of the European superstate. He said that years ago. Well, it is a superstate today. Though people don't know it, they have the nuclear bombs. And certainly France has a lot of them. And Germany even has still a lot of our atomic bombs. And they have access to whatever they want, frankly, because of all of their financial power and even military power. But here he says it's a battle, and both sides are claiming to fight under the banner of Charlemagne. See, they're talking about Charlemagne, but who knows anything about this? What is happening? And why don't people know about it? This is the big news right now, even far bigger than Afghanistan. And we ought to see that. Again, a short quote, across the Rhine, successor German governments have, in their pursuit of a European cloak for German ambitions. Well, what kind of German ambitions is he talking about? Well, the ambitions they've had throughout the time of the Holy Roman Empire from 554 AD. But you have to remember that Germany started World War I and World War II. They are a militaristic nation when they are led, especially as a part of the Holy Roman Empire. They are a power with great might, and they're going to be more destructive in this end time than they ever have been in the past. That is a fact. And your Bible makes that really very clear. Now, Charlemagne just raced through a sea of blood as he ruled Europe. And the big question, Connolly says, the big question remains unanswered. In the new empire of Charlemagne, who would play Charlemagne? Now, this man worked inside there for years and said, the rotten heart of Europe is right here. And then he said exactly the same question was implicit and left unanswered in recent meetings he was talking about. See, again, who could even dream about such a thing happening? And what is it going to do? Do you think Germany is going to be wanting to rule themselves now after they see what's happening in Afghanistan, when our planning was, well, certainly seriously lacking, and most people have called it a frantic exit from Afghanistan? Now, God says in another place in Daniel 2, this image's head was of the fine gold, and he goes on to talk about the breast and the arms and silver of his belly and thighs and brass and his legs of iron. He goes right on down those 4 world-ruling empires. And then he talks about a 5th ruling empire, would you believe, that nobody's ever discussed, it seems. Not very much anyhow. Verse 34, you saw till that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and broke them to pieces. Well, this is good news. This is Christ returning. Then, verse 35, then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors. And the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. That's the rule of Jesus Christ, that fifth kingdom, or the fifth empire, if you want to call it that. It's much more than any empire of this world, though. Then it goes on down in verse 41 and talks about some 10 toes, and it's getting into the very holy Roman Empire of today. But look what happens to it. Verse 44, and in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people, not human beings, but God beings who have become spirit beings in God's kingdom. Those who have gotten this message out to the world about the Holy Roman Empire and what it all means. And almost nobody discusses it today, but they should. A lot more than what they do, and they should understand it. But it concludes here, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. You see, it doesn't depend upon men. He's talking about the 4 great world-ruling kingdoms, and then he talks about that 5th world-ruling kingdom is going to rule forever and ever and ever. What a wonderful, wonderful news for all of us. A news report from the Bible. This is the 5th world-ruling empire, and what a wonderful blessing it's going to be. Also, it says in Daniel 7 and verse 27, notice this, and the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him. So this is going to be given to those saints that have been called out before Christ's second coming and served God and got this message out to the world. And God says they're going to share Jesus Christ's throne with him. When he returns to this earth, they're going to serve this world and teach the way of God, and it's going to be ruled with God's authority. That's the most wonderful news we could possibly hear. Who's going to rule the world? Russia? China? Iran? The Holy Roman Empire? No, absolutely not. God's going to break all of them into pieces. All of these governments of this world, if they fight against him. That is what is going to happen. So, if you understand the book of Daniel, it is only for this end time. That's all. Because all these prophecies are being fulfilled now, and were not filled in the past, obviously. But here you have an empire, see, a 5th ruling empire. And what a wonderful ending this all has. I mean, you can hardly even imagine how wonderful this is. And then it talks about, really, if you look around, a lot of people are just in open despair about what's happening in this nation and in the UK and in the state of Israel, because they see things, they're not good news. Then it says in Daniel 12 and verse 1, I'll conclude there, talking about the people there shall be in a time of trouble such as never was since there was a nation. He said the people of God are going to be delivered. That's reward number 1. They're going to have a great delivery and be protected from all these horrifying events that are unfolding. And see, some of them are not going to have a good ending, verse 2, but notice verse 3. And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever. You see, if you do what God says and get this message out and turn people to righteousness, He says your face is going to shine like the brightness of the firmament, and they're going to shine like the stars above. That's the kind of brightness and power these people are going to have. Until next week, this is Gerald Flurry. Goodbye, friends.
Request Daniel Unlocks Revelation to learn how putting these two books together will show you what the future holds. Also request Germany and the Holy Roman Empire, The Wonderful World Tomorrow, What Will It Be Like, and Strong Man Rising in Europe. All our literature is available free of charge at no cost or obligation to you. Order now. The preceding program was a paid presentation of The Key of David, brought to you by the Philadelphia Church of God.